This is YR, Women in AI Research. In this EACL 2026 series, I'm speaking with authors of accepted papers to break down their work and the ideas behind it. Let's dive in. Could you please introduce yourself?
Yes, sure. So my name is Shifali. I am a research scholar at IIT Guwahati, India. Okay, I worked on this project during my internship at Samsung R&D Institute, Bangalore.
And could you please walk me through this work?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for giving me a chance. Okay, today I'm excited to present our work titled as I Know You Are Different toward persona-driven knowledge-infused dialogue assistant. So you can see these are the author. Moshmi is there, Abhishek, then Javed. Okay, let's start the work. So this work focus on improving personalization in Hinglish. English is the English plus Hindi. You might be aware about this terminology. So in when we are using the code mixing of two language. So so this work is mainly focus on the improving personalization in English task-oriented dialogue system by integrating the graphs. So you can see the example here. If someone asks the मेरा ऑफिस रूम सेटअप डेकोरेट करने में मदद करो, हेल्प मी टू डेकोरेट माय ऑफिस रूम, देन जनरली एलएलएम विल रिस्पॉन्स लाइक बिल्कुल आपकी क्या स्टाइल है, टेल मी अबाउट योर स्टाइल, व्हाट डू यू लाइक, व्हाट डू यू नॉट लाइक. बस इन द पर्सनलाइजेशन इन दिस ग्राफ इट विल रिप्लाई लाइक ओके केबल ऑर्गेनाइजर, डुअल मॉनिटर, बिकॉज द पर्सन LLM know he is the IT professional. That's why according to them they are asking. Okay. Then so there are mainly three things. One is a task oriented, and another is a English, and another multimodality. So you can see if I am giving the image of the my table and I am asking for the help me to decorate my home office setup, so it will take a idea from the image also. This is a multimodality setting is there. So let's start with the limitation in existing work. So if I'm talking about the limitation, there is a mainly four type of limitation. One is the history only context without structured knowledge, and second is the missing modality, and apart from this the lack of common sense. So common sense is like if I'm giving the example, if I'm telling I have to pick my daughter from school, so common sense is I am a mother, so this is the common sense. So and apart from this is the language and modality constraint in the English. So we mainly focus on the English setup. In India setup we are using the code mix language. So now I'm going with the contribution. Here there's a two contribution. One is the dataset side. We are the first large scale English task oriented dataset with modality and persona grounding. Persona here we have a 7 persona. I will tell all this detail in a later. Apart from the dataset, I have a zero shot dialogue framework injected three graph. One is the entity graph, persona graph, and common sense graph. Let's start the contribution of the dataset. So there is 2.7k dialogue, and apart from this, as I told you, the 7 persona is there. Persona is a college student, IT professional, senior citizen, housewife, freelance, small business, and school teacher. Apart from this, 42k utterance is there, and 14 domain we coverage in this dataset. So if you see the dataset, look like the user will start, then assistant will tell something, then user will again. So this is the whole dataset. Let's start from the novelty of the architecture. So G3 TOD work or the simple 4 stage. One is the okay. One is the graph construction. Graph construction, you can see there I'm telling about the graph construction, how I make 3 different type of graph. Then knowledge distillation, and knowledge distillation something we score triplet based on how relevant it is, because we cannot pass whole history. We have to stick a small history so that LLM don't forget the things. And apart from this is the context selection. So top K I have to select from the past history. So this is the 4 mainly main stages. At the last the response generation is there. Then let's start with the we context mainly 3 graph. One is the entity graph. Entity graph is a capture the domain entity, action, slot relation. Then persona graph is there. Persona graph is the models, user trends, habit, preferences, behavior. And apart from this, a common sense graph provide everything reasoning, implicit cases. So here you can see the Domino's से कुछ order कर सकते हैं. Then entity graph is like Domino's offer pizza. User persona is user like cheeseburger pizza. But common sense is pizza is only preferred for the dinner time. Then this is a response of the LLM. Okay, now I am going with this. Okay, there is a three strategy for the context because the mainly focus on the graph side. So we cannot pass all the triplets to the LLM. So we have to select something. For the selection, we have a few things. First is the each triplet is scored based on how similar the current dialogue is. Then we expand a small subgraph and around the high scoring triplets. Okay, so now I have a one small subgraph. How relevant is it? Then go with the small around of the triplets. Then any irrelevant and noisy triplet can be there and duplicate triplet can be there. I removed to keep the context clear. After that, we choose the top alpha dialogue utterance that most of the supported by these triplets. So this is the way the LLM gets only most relevant and focused context, making the response. So that LLM will not hallucinate and more personalization should become. So now these are the metrics we use: the perplexity, blue score, rogue, meteor, and BERT score, cosine similarity. There are just two like metrics we defined. One is the persona aligned score, another is the persona consistency across turn. So this is the human evaluation metrics. One is a fluency. Now the context, and other is the engageness, correction kg, overall performance. This is the setup. So you can see all the automatic result is there. Here we mainly see the few things. G3 should significantly perform all the baseline. Okay. We also go with the 7 LLMs. We try with the LLM Llama 3.1, Phi 3, Gamma, Mistral, Quen, and GPT-4. So we found GPT-4 response is very good. So apart from this, you can see the Rogue nearly double, and semantic similarity improves by 20% or 30%. And there's a two metrics: persona aligned improved by the 24% or 25% approx, and persona consistency improved by the 25%. So these are the result. If I'm talking about the human evaluation, as I told you, there is a 5 different metrics, and overall all the method are performing very well. So now I am going with the almost okay. At the last, we conclude the 4 major things. So 4 major question came in the picture. So one is the impact of the knowledge, because we have a 3 graph. What the impact of all the 3 graph? So the research question is, which graph help more in the persona graph or textual persona graph? So instead of graph, we can pass the text, but we see the text is not very good, not give very good result, and entity graph give the more grounding. Persona graph add more personalization, and common sense covers the implicit cases. The second question I'm talking about the how like flexible LLMs are toward personalization. So if we see the GPT-4, Quen 3 adopt performance is better than the smaller model. Apart from this, the LLMs are more influenced by the few persona. Like they know more about the IT professional, freelance, but they know very less about the choice of the senior citizen, choice of housewife. Okay, these are the main result. This is the analysis. There is a context selection, path alpha, and there is a triplet threshold. So these 3 are the hyperparameter for this. We use the 3, beta is 3, alpha is 3, also gamma is 0.86. So they are just 4 conclusion. So structured knowledge is key. Apart from this, the graph outdated raw data, because we have to update the graph every time, and a strong zero site personnel. They are not doing to any training at all. It's all about the without training. We just extract the context from the graph. And diversity setting, like code mix is well performing well, and multimodal is also performing well. Now this is the limitation. One is the triplet dependency, because sometimes it give me very huge number of triplets. So it might be one future work we can improve with a context sensitive extraction. Apart from this, the token limitation, because we are calling the API. Another is the triplets weight. So we introduce the lightweight adaptive attention mechanism that might not be a zero shot, but performing well for few.
I see. It's a very interesting work. I have a couple of questions about this. One of your human evaluation metrics was fluency, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
fluency uh, involves grammaticality. So, how do you approach the very concept of grammaticality when it is not English, not Hindi, but Hinglish, which is like, in some sense, it's already ungrammatical in nature. So, do you are you looking for people that uh, are, let's say, fluent in English, or
yeah.
like how do
Actually,
you approach it at all?
so we selected a person who know the English, and we really know the Hindi, and because for us, English is not a first language, Hindi is the first language. But we are very good in English. So if you see the grammatical, some things should be there. Like if I'm talking about the English, if you cannot use he with R, you have to use he is. So this type of meaning should be there in English also.
Interesting. Interesting. And the last question is, when you are testing the models, different models, you have those smaller ones and the bigger ones, and you show that like there are differences across these groups of smaller models and bigger models. But I
Yeah.
wonder, do you think maybe there is also the difference between the closed models and the open weight? Right now, the only closed model that you use is GPT, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it's also in that bigger model group. Um, what is your intuition, maybe based on the some other experiments that you have done during the course of this project, uh, on whether there is any difference between the open models and the closed models in this regard?
If I'm talking about this experiment, all the open model, somehow they are hallucinated. It
Mhm,
doesn't matter how much you are giving the instruction prompt, but they few times they are hallucinated. They are trying to give the extra comments, but we fo- we found one more interesting thing. A smaller model are more hallucinate.
mhm.
Yeah, because they try to fulfill I think that token size, and they try to capture something random sometime.
I see.
And
I
yeah,
see.
but the one problem is the apart from the personalization, they also add their own common sense, whatever LLM have. So this is the one. So there are just some like that's why the fluency, coherence, or other metrics is not performing 100%.
Links are in the description, both the paper and the author. Like this video and subscribe to the channel to follow this series. See you next time.